Morning. Happy Spiritual Sunday to you all. People starting to populate here. It's great to see you. Lynn, Shannon, Shoshana, Barbara, Mohammed, Zhao, Jaina, Alan. Oh, Sheila. There we go. Okay. Yes, love you too. So let's start. Well, more people are joining us. Again, some insight from Karen Berg, Simple Light. It says like this. The Zohar says that there are two kinds of people, God's servants and God's children. The Zohar explains the difference between a servant of God and a child of God, is that the servant performs his duties, his tasks dutifully. He prays, performs good deeds, and is charitable. He does these things because they are what is expected of him. He does these things so he'll be considered one of the good people. What then is a child of God? A child of God does everything from a spiritual consciousness. He does it because it is what he expects of himself and not because another expects it of him. Everything he does is in order to connect to the light force of God. So you and I want to change ourselves from being the servant of God to the child of God. We want to do things because it's the light thing to do. It brings us light. It brings us the revelation of more of our pure and perfect selves. It brings us more blessings in our life because the more we act like the light, the more we get blessings from the light. So we want to do it not out of obligation. That's where people ultimately end up in trouble because at some point along the line, if we're doing any good act just as an obligation, it's not going to bring us lasting blessings. And somewhere along the line, we're going to awaken a form of resentment or anger or hurt or criticism or complaining. You want to know if you're really connected to the light or not? One simple way is, and again, it's moment to moment when you're complaining. Person complaining is not connected to the light because what would we have to complain about if we were really connected with the light? And as we'll speak today, as we understand the system, then there's nothing to complain about. There's just, as Karen said, there's being the child of God, just doing something of a sharing nature, something that's outside our comfort zone, something helpful to others for the sake of being closer to the light and revealing more of the light of my soul. That's the key. That's what we want. So as we've got to quite a number of people now, I'd like to get started and reminding you, please help us reach other people. You know, we keep reminding ourselves that we're one soul with every human being on earth. That, yes, I have my individual job to do. I picked a particular tikkun or correction in this lifetime. But at the same time, there is no distinction between you, me, and every human being on earth on the soul level. On the soul level. So we are in it together. And therefore, the more people who are pulling to the side of the light, the more people who are acting with this consciousness, as you and I are learning here, then the better off it is for them, for us, and for the entire world, because then the light has the greater influence. So, and I want to thank you for those of you who have been starting watch parties, and I would like to encourage you now, those who are unfamiliar, just look underneath the screen. You should see a share button. Hover over that, and then you'll see Start Watch Party. And just click it. Just let people that you know or who are your friends on Facebook, let them have access to this. That's all. If they're ready for it, they'll click on, they'll join us, they'll be inspired, they'll change their lives, they'll tell other people. If they're not ready for it, they won't see. They won't see the message right now that says you're starting a watch party of Spiritual Sunday. So it's okay. Don't be afraid. Let everybody know that you're making an effort not only to make your life better, but you want to help them make their life better and therefore the entire world. So let's do our affirmation. For those of you who are new, one, I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank your friends that told you about us, or whichever way it was that you found us. So let's do this because we've got to infuse our consciousness with truth. It's that simple. The more we put the truth and the true system of the creation in our mind, the truth about us and other people, then the more we're going to be able to live it. And the more we live it, the better off we all are. So let's say it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. And that is all. And as you notice, if you're watching the comments here, you see people literally from all over the world, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of what the center is. The center has become in the 33 years I've been a part of it, is that we're reaching out to all peoples all around the world, and it's just fantastic to see how many people are coming together in unity. Just as a side note, before I start with what I wanted to talk about, I was reading from the founder of the center, Rav Ashlag, from some of his works that were written back in the 1920s and 30s, back when people thought that Kabbalah was literally only meant for the few special people. And then some would say, no, only for the Jewish people and only for the most religious and observant, etc., Jewish people. Well, he writes back then in the 20s and 30s that the peace on earth and true condition of love your neighbor as yourself requires every human being. So back then, it was almost heresy, if you will, but he was writing back then, and it took his student, Rav Brandwein, and his student, the Rav and Karen Berg, to bring it to the masses. But it is important to understand that the Kabbalists have been writing for thousands of years. In spite of what some people might try and tell you, the Kabbalah is only limited to those special few. No, the true great Kabbalists, Rav Ashlag being one of them in a lineage of these great Kabbalists, says it must go out to every human being on earth, because love your neighbor as yourself means everybody. It doesn't mean if you're Jewish, just the Jews. It doesn't mean if you're Christian, just the Christians. It doesn't mean if you're Muslim, just the Muslim. Every human being is a creation of God, and therefore every human being is part of the love your neighbor as yourself. Thank you. Love you all too. So I wanted to start like this. People say, I'll believe it when I see it. And we probably caught ourselves saying similar things along the line also. I can't believe it. I didn't see it. You're telling me this, whatever it may be. So I always go back to the magic show. I remember the first time as a kid I saw a magic show, and it was literally the magician pulled a rabbit out of the hat. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, as a kid, you say, wow, magic. How did he do that? And you almost believe he really did it. But then as you grow up, you understand what? It's a trick. It's a magic trick. Today, they've got some pretty fantastic magic tricks. So your eyes are seeing an empty hat, and then out comes the rabbit. Or you see hanging up in midair, this empty cage, and the next thing you know, they pull the curtain, they put a curtain on it, they pull the curtain, and now there's an elephant or a tiger. And then they put the curtain back, and they take it off, and now the tiger or the elephant's disappeared. So there's a lot of, I've seen it, but I don't believe it. It's not I see it and I believe it. I saw it, but I knew it was a trick. I knew there was something that I was unable to see. Similarly, I remember the picture of railroad tracks. I don't know if you've ever seen them, like where they're going off in the distance. So you're almost just above ground level, and you're looking at these railroad tracks, the train tracks, and they start far apart, but as the picture shows you going into the distance, they look like they're converging, coming closer and closer. But you and I know that's not true. You and I both know they're parallel for all the miles of the railroad tracks. They don't get closer, but our perception makes us think that. So optical illusions, magic shows, what do they teach us? that our five senses are limited. We cannot just trust them blindly. Kind of a paradox, right? Can't trust what I see blindly. Yes, but we know that our five senses are limited. They don't always show us like the magic show, like the optical illusions. Or I remember when I first started as a teacher, the Rav used to say, you know, you've put your keys down when you came in the house. You're on your way out. You look at that table by the door for the keys and you can't find it. You run around the house. You look, you scream, you yell, where's the keys? I've got to go. I'm in a hurry. Nah, nah, nah. Nobody seems to know. You go back to that table right in front of the doorway, and there's the keys. So where did they go for those few moments? They must have been there, because you and I know they just didn't disappear. Little elves didn't come and take them, hide them from us, and then as we ran around, put it back on the table. So the first understanding is I cannot trust my senses completely. Like the magician, there is that trick to it. In spirituality, we know there's such a thing as the opponent. And the opponent, as the Kabbalists call him, is the master magician, meaning he's always making an effort to trick us, to believe things that aren't true and to disbelieve things that are true, to see things and say, oh, that's the way it is. Look what they did, look what happens, etc. And to not believe other things. So I always start with this idea, something we can relate that was kind of a new awakening for me a couple years ago. You walk into a dark room or you're outside at night, it's completely pitch black, you can't see a thing. Did the light really disappear? That's what we think. Well, it's dark, there is no light. So then somebody mentioned to me, well, what if you put on infrared goggles, like those night vision goggles? Suddenly, what appeared to us a moment ago, completely dark, devoid of light, suddenly now I can see. Because these goggles have a higher sensitivity to light than my own eyes. So it's not that there's not light. It's that our eyes are not sensitive enough to the light that is everywhere, because you and I know the light is infinite. We're just not sensitive to it. So then the same thing, we've got to think about our life. It's identical. When you see chaos, or you think you see chaos, we want to remember, seeing is not believing. So we don't always want to believe what we see. So we look around the world, we see chaos. Don't believe in chaos. Remember, the light is infinite, the light is everywhere. What does chaos mean? What is that opponent trying to tell us? That chaos means I cannot repair it. It's just like random. It's just strewn out. There's no rhyme or reason to these things. Do not believe it. There is no such thing as chaos in God's spiritual universe. What we need to do is refocus our eyes, like with those infrared goggles, and we need to see, yes, there are things that are out of order. There are things I may not right now perceive the order, but I do know that there is an order. So let's call it disorder. It's out of order, but like other things, then our spiritual work is put it back in order. So it's not chaos that can never be repaired. It's disorder that can be put back in order. If we think we see lack, we look around and we say, even in our own life, we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. Look at the world. The world doesn't have this and these people are in lack, whatever. No, don't believe that either. Don't believe just your five senses. Think about it. How many times has it happened to us that our experience, our logic, what we've learned in the brain, so to speak, tells us in a certain situation to go one way. But we suddenly have that voice within us, the intuitive voice, that flash of intuition that tells us go exactly the opposite way of our logic. You and I have come to many of those situations, have we not? Logic says go this way, our intuition says the opposite. 99.999% of the time, which is right? Exactly, our intuition. So what is it again showing us? We cannot believe blindly without consciousness. We cannot believe our five senses. We cannot. So then here with the lack is not real. What is the lack? Like darkness. My eyes are not sensitive enough to see. But can the infinite light of God not be infinite? If you believe in a God, if you believe God, a creator of all things, it has to be infinite. So then God's light also has to be infinite. So where there's lack, it's not that there's really lack. Don't believe your five senses that tell you there's lack. Believe, yes, that there is light that I cannot see. There is an empty space that is not truly empty, but I do not have the sensitivity in that moment. I have not awakened to that spiritual level to see the light that's there. And you and I are learning here in the Kabbalah Center how when we see the lack, when we see the darkness, when we see the difficulty, to awaken and draw the light out of the darkness. So there is no lack. There's just missing, if you will, the expression of the light or the manifestation of the light. But there is no lack because the Creator is infinite. Or here's a good one. Look what I made happen. Look what I did. I see that I achieved this in school. I see I achieved this in business. I see I came up with this new invention. I had this new idea, right? I did it. No, don't believe. You see it or you think you see it. Don't believe it. It's not true. The light is infinite. The light fills every human soul with ideas, thoughts, awareness, joy, happiness, peace, prosperity, etc. Everything already exists in God's universe. Everything already exists here in this physical world. Our job is to make it revealed. So when a person is perceiving, I made this happen, I invented this, I created this, I did this. No, don't believe it. You and I can do nothing without the power of the light force of God that's put in our soul. What is life itself? Is the light force expressing through the physical body. When the light force of God of our soul disappears, leaves the body cannot function. So here you take the smartest Einstein, one of the smartest men in history. As soon as his soul left, the light force of the Creator left his body, was his brain able to function? Was he still able to do physics? Was he able to walk around, talk, be with his family and friends? No, because it's the light force of the Creator that animates us. Doesn't take away from the effort we make to reveal that light. It doesn't take away from our part of the partnership, if you will, with the Creator. But when a person thinks they see, I did it on my own, I took care of this, I made this happen, that's the part you don't want to believe. That's the part that's not true. That's the part that's like the magic show, that the opponent, that spiritual parasite in our brain, is making us take credit. Yes, I did it all. No, we can't even make our heart pump. We can't even make our lungs breathe. We can't even make our body work physiologically without the light of the Creator. How could we come up with all those things? No, they already exist because the light is infinite. So it's already there. So every idea, thought, invention, creation, appearance of something, right? Like we get that download. It's coming from the Creator's light that already exists. Our work now is to make it manifest physically. Haven't you ever had that thought, I should share with that person, I should be nicer to them, I should do that thing. And sometimes, like we said, our intuition, sometimes we don't listen to that intuitive voice. And usually it doesn't work out well. We miss out an opportunity, something doesn't go well, we get in some conflict with somebody, something like that will happen because we didn't listen to the voice of the Creator within us. We did what the opponent told us. We did the opposite. We did the 5 cents. I see it, I believe it. I heard them say something negative, so I will take it in a negative way. Ooh. Look around the world. Here's another one that doesn't do us any good to believe. We see hatred. We see animosity in the world. Don't believe it. Careful. Don't believe it. What does that mean? Don't believe that the Creator created a human being to hate. What is hatred? How many of us have ever had, even in a moment, somebody we love, somebody we care for, does something, and in that moment, we may not call it hatred, but we feel something like that, resentful. Or maybe we do. Maybe we had in that moment hatred. How could they say that? How could they do that? But at the same time, it's somebody we love. So we know that love and hatred are really two sides of the same coin. In that moment, that what I perceive as love is not being fulfilled, then we might call it hatred. So we're looking for love. People who hate other people, it's because they're not seeing with the love or the light in the other person. And therefore, they want to push the other person away. Some by in a minor way, resentment, distancing themselves from the person, etc., and others in a more intense way, with what we would call hatred, violence, killing, something like that. But it's really just part of the illusion of our five senses. Person is looking for love. They don't feel it from that person, so they push them away in order to find somebody else or draw something else to them. But it's really looking for love, peace, happiness, and joy. Because remember, that's what the Creator put inside of us. So we're looking for it. Where we don't see it, why do we see the lack? Because I don't see what I expect the Creator to have given me, right? If I know the Creator gave me peace, love, health, prosperity, all the good things, and we don't see it, then we call it a lack. No, that's what we're learning today. Don't believe it. Yes, it's there in the temporary vision, like the magic show. Well, I thought I saw them pull the rabbit out of the hat, but I really know they didn't, because I understand there is a trick to it. There is a trick to make us think we see an empty hat and then the rabbit come out of it. So we want to start changing. Seeing is not always believing. Seeing is not always believing. So now let's turn it around. Believing, because the Rav used to say, believing is seeing. Believing means that we have certainty that the light, one, is infinite, certainty that the light is infinite, certainty that the light is all good, and most importantly, and the main thing that you and I are learning here in the Kabbalah Center, that the light force of God has a very detailed, specific, and immutable system to it. The system doesn't change. So like we're saying, we all know, if you believe in a Creator, say, yes, the Creator is abundance. But many people in this planet don't have abundance. Not because the Creator isn't giving them abundance or hasn't already given them abundance, but it's with our free will, we need to make it manifest. Are they acting like God? Are they using the system in a way to be like God? So I had an experience that goes along with this. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting out in the backyard and I was looking out from my porch and I see the wind blowing the tree branches. And for whatever reason in that moment, as I'm seeing this, and just picture it. I mean, we've all been out there and you see, the leaves rustling or the branches moving or things like that. And I said, oh, look at the wind. And then I started to think to myself, what do you mean, look at the wind? I can't see the wind. I didn't see the wind. Can we see the air? And don't tell me, yeah, when it's polluted, okay? We're not seeing the air. The air itself, basically invisible. What was I seeing when I was looking out in my backyard? I was seeing the effect of the wind. So it called it, oh yeah, look how strong the wind is. What do you mean, look how strong? I can't see how strong the wind is itself. I can only see the effect of the wind. I could see the tree moving. When it gets, very windy, like years before when there was hurricanes, right? You could see things moving and tree branches breaking off the trees, or trees being uprooted. Again, you say, wow, look how strong the wind is. But we're really seeing the air? No, we're seeing the effect of. We're seeing the effect of. So believing means I have certainty. Yes, there is air, even though I don't see it. And I know the air is moving in such a intensity that the leaves are moving, or even in those cases, the trees being uprooted. But I'm seeing the effect. I'm not seeing the wind itself. So let me give you a couple ideas that way. The thief. Why does a thief steal? Thief steals in this frame because they don't believe with certainty that the Creator already gave them abundance and sustenance. They don't believe it. So what do? They have to go out and steal. And then, under the delusion of the opponent, they think for every dollar they steal, they're gaining $1. Because that's what their five senses show them, right? Isn't that what they're seeing? Five senses. They went out, they stole $1, they walk away, they've got $1. What they don't see, and they don't have certainty in, that you and I are learning, that somewhere down the line, they are going to, or they did lose $1.20. That's the system. For every dollar a person steals, they're going to lose inevitably $1.20. But what happens? Again, the illusion of the five senses. They believe in what they're seeing, right? So they see they stole $1, they walked away with the extra $1. Then, let's say 6 months down the line, in whatever way somebody steals it from them, or they lose it in a business deal or an investment or whatever, and they lose the $1.20. Now, what are they seeing? They're seeing that somebody or somehow they lost that $1.20. No, don't believe it. Don't believe what you're seeing. Remember, there is that invisible system of the light force of the Creator in this universe that says, steal $1, lose $1.20. If a person could really see that, imagine when you and I spread so much light around the world that there is no darkness whatsoever, that in the eyes of that thief, they could see clearly they're about to steal that $1, and now they see that no matter what they'll do, 6 months down the line, they're going to lose $1.20. You think they're going to steal the $1? No, no way. They wouldn't want to do that. But when the light is so bright, they will see, as you and I understand, the system of the light of the Creator. You give the $1 as tithing. You give the $1 as charity. And now you could see the effect that it comes back many, many, many times over. It's the paradox. We want to say, no, seeing is believing. Got the $1, got the $1. Or some people will say, not even a thief. I worked, made my money. Why should I give it away? Because they don't see the spiritual system. They don't have certainty. That is all the Bible tells us, and all spiritual systems say. Person tithing, they will get a return of 10 times. They don't see it, so they don't believe it. You and I are learning to see through believing. Believe it's true, have certainty in the system, and then watch the effect take place as you do the action. As you do the action. Think similarly with somebody who's about to commit violence. Right? Why? Because like we've said, they're not getting their way. They're not getting what they want. They think this person is negative because they're not seeing the light in the other person. They're seeing the illusion. They're giving in to what the opponent's telling them. Oh, that's a bad person. That's a bad person. So instead of seeing the light in them, they're about to commit violence to push the person away, get rid of the bad that they think they're seeing. But if their eyes were open spiritually, with the eyes of certainty, they would see similarly like the thief, that for any act of violence they're about to commit on another person, inevitably somewhere down the line, it's going to come back on them and the people they love the most. So they would never do it. But because they're giving into their five senses, they're seeing only with the physical eyes, they can do those acts. As you and I awaken more light, as we're spreading more light in the universe, as we do our own acts of transformational sharing to reveal more and more light, then what's going to happen? You take away that darkness, and they will be able to see as they're about to do that. Like you and I, the logic and the intuition essentially comes at the same time, right? Because we've grown to that point, and as we grow spiritually, it happens more and more frequently. But even before we started to really get on our conscious path of spiritual transformation, every person has those situations once in a while. Logic says go one way, and that intuitive voice says go the opposite. When does it take place? Same moment. In the same moment. That's what makes it sometimes a struggle. That's what makes it a conflict in our own head. Should I follow my logic? Do I follow my intuition? Do I listen to that small voice? Or do I follow what my eyes, my experience, all my five senses have shown me? No, there's the five senses of the body, the flesh and blood, and then there's the sixth sense, or if you will, the eyes of God. The eyes of God. To see as God sees, to see as the Creator sees, to see only the infinite light everywhere in everyone all the time, to see the goodness that's already here. We came into this world to see that goodness and to make it manifest, to see it with our sixth sense, to see it with our God senses, to feel it in our heart and soul, and then to do the actions of emulating the Creator to make it manifest. If you think in those simple terms, as we believe in a Creator that created our universe out of its goodness, then our job is to reveal that goodness by acting like the Creator and creating goodness in our life. So instead of the stealing, giving, tithing, charity. Instead of an act of violence, an act of love, embracing the person. Instead of being jealous, an act of gratitude. Instead of being egotistical, an act of humility. The more we act as the Creator, the more we create the world as the Creator sees it. Love, kindness, compassion, prosperity, health, protection, all the good blessings. All the good blessings. It's in our hands to make it manifest. We're not creating it per se. We're taking what's hidden, that's already been created, and making it revealed. That's why we said, and you've heard stories, Mozart said he got a download, so to speak, of his symphonies, and then he just wrote them out. Great painters, artists got the download, and then they wrote it. Who was it? There was one author, I don't remember who it was, who said in a dream, she got all the stories and everything else, and then when she woke up, she was just writing it down. As we come to believe that the Creator is infinite, then everything is already there. Each one of us, in certain ways, are channels or conduits. The frequency of our actions, the frequency of our soul tunes into a certain frequency of that energy, and we get our own ideas. You and I may not be inventors, artists, and things like that, but we get our downloads according to our consciousness, according to our vibration. So whatever your profession is, if you stop and think during the day at work, did you never get a download of a thought, oh, you know what, maybe I'll say that, maybe I'll do that, maybe I'll go there. It doesn't have to be some screenwriter getting an idea for a play or for a movie, or an artist of a picture, etc. No, it could be what we do at work. You're driving down the street, all of a sudden a download of someone you should call. You haven't heard from them in a while, check up on them, etc., etc. And then you find maybe they're in need in that moment. They're in need and you can help them with their need, whatever's going on with them. What happened? We didn't really think it, but our vibration, our desire to help, our spiritual evolution, we're coming to the point of, yes, love your neighbors yourself. I know you're me and I'm you and we're all one together. That gave us the download. We tapped into that frequency of that person that we know, we care for, we love, who's in need and needs our help. So we call. We are just revealing what's already in the cosmos, like with the infrared goggles. We're putting on, if you will, the goggles of God, the eyes of God, to be able to see light through the darkness, to be able to see the truth everywhere. Now, as we said, the Rav always told us, believing is seeing. Believing is seeing. So as we believe, as we have certainty that the light is there, this is where we learn from Kabbalah 1. Now you can understand it a little differently. Kabbalah 1, we learned what? Every time we're triggered and we're feeling challenged, we're feeling that lack, we're feeling the emptiness, we don't see the light, we don't see the goodness. All we can see is that person who said or did that bad thing that's making us feel uncomfortable, hurt, resentful, scared, etc. We've learned to do what? Pause. Stop. Look with the eyes of the Creator. See the light. And then take the actions that will project the light from our soul out towards that person through that situation to reveal the light from our point of view. Other people may not see it. Other people may not perceive what we're perceiving. But we do. We will. So the more we believe, the more we have certainty, the more we'll act in the system. And as we act with the system, we'll see it. We'll see it more and more. I believe all of you, probably most of you, either have a Zohar, heard us talk about the Zohar. The Zohar, the most powerful light source in the universe. It is literally a conduit of the endless world's light into this world. So the light that shines out of the Zohar, endless light. But you and I, again, like the wind, do we see it? Those of us who read from the Zohar, scan the Aramaic of the Zohar, use those Aramaic or Hebrew light force particles to awaken our soul. We don't see the light. We don't see the light. What can we see? We can see the effect, like the wind. I can see the leaves moving, so I know the wind is blowing it, but I can't see the light, the wind itself. So too with the Zohar. I'm reading from the Zohar, scanning from the Zohar, sending the light out into the world. Can we see the light? No, but we can see the impact. We can see the change. Many times we read the miracles that you send in, and please, if you've had a miracle experience with the Zohar, please send it to me that I can share it with others, right? We had, one man had hip surgery. He replaced both hips, right? One, he made a greater use of the Zohar than the other. Which one healed faster? The one that he used the Zohar more. We have all those stories. People who've had challenges with cancer. They go in to get checked with the doctor. The doctors even came to the point, one of the students was laying on the table. They were about to do cancer surgery, take out the cancer. For whatever reason, the doctor had the idea, take him one more, whatever it was, X-ray or CAT scan, and look and see. And what had happened? Disappeared. There was nothing there. There was no mass. Why? Because the light of the Zohar, even though it's invisible, shines and will take away darkness. Whether it's cancer, whether it's bad business, whether it's difficulty in a relationship, whatever it may be, light will always remove darkness. But we have to be able to perceive with the eyes of God that are given to us and not the eyes of the body. That's the key. The Zohar says simply, the heart has eyes. The heart has eyes. Which means when we have love, when we love each other, when we love people. And a love, again, for those of you who are newer, doesn't have to mean romantic love. But when you love, create a unity, a bond with other people, you begin to see, as I wrote on the Facebook, when we can see the light in other people through their darkness, through their negativity, etc., because we know as we'll look with the eyes of Creator, as we'll look with the eyes in our heart, we will come to see the light being in the other person. Remember, we are pure and perfect beings of light. That's what we've got to remember. So too the other person. So as we look with the eyes of our heart and we look from the point of view of love, and we want to be bonded to the light force of the Creator, that infinite light, we have to bond to the light in other people. Yes, we don't have to like what they do. We don't have to be friends with them. We don't have to hang out with them. But for our own good, for our own self-survival, if you will, it's essential that we see the light in other people. It's essential that we see through the illusion, because when we'll do that, when we'll see the light in others, we will draw the light out of them. For 33 years, I've been in the center. I've been with the Rav and Karen, and something that I learned over and over from them, they're always looking to see good in people. Even among the teachers, okay, we're still human. We do things that are silly, foolish, whatever. But the Rav and Karen would always, even you look at them, you come with a sense of, oh my God, you don't know what I did. But the Rav and Karen would always look at us with love, because they see our potential. They see what the Creator created. They see the light inside of us. And that would help bring out the light, because it wasn't just, oh, you did that, well, that was stupid and that was foolish, and criticize us. No, they understood. The whole secret is to draw light out, reveal the light by seeing the light. We have a very powerful story. Some of you may have seen it. He's now a teacher in the center in Israel, but he started in Germany. Jonathan Langer, if you want to look him up. Very powerful story. Grew up as basically a neo-Nazi, white supremacist, all those things. Hate groups. Because why? And as he tells the story, because people made him feel like it was part of something. Part of something. Yeah, it was hateful, right? And all the negative aspect of it. But he kind of felt like he was part of a family, if you will, something there. Well, what happened? He started to be uncomfortable with that. And whatever reason it was, he encountered people from the Kabbalah Center in Germany. And like we're talking about, seeing people through their outside, through the flesh and blood, through whatever else there was, and just look into their heart, look into their soul. And he said, as he just started to feel like people weren't judging him, they weren't looking at any bad, they weren't questioning about anything about his past, but they just looked at him. And as we're saying, saw the light of the Creator inside them, saw the light of the Creator inside of him. It slowly drew out, and he felt more and more distant from the hatred that he had grown up with, the animosity towards certain people and groups, etc., and he began to have that spiritual awakening, to the point he became a full-time volunteer in the center, and now he's a teacher, and he goes around the world telling his story of how he was able to transform. Why? Because of the light. Because there were people who believe what you and I are speaking. We believe in the system of the light. We believe the light created every single one of us. We believe that there's light in the heart and soul of everybody. And the most important thing that I want to get to, seeing is not believing. But believing gives us the ability to see. When you look in the mirror, who or what do you see? Who or what do you see? That's the key. We often look in our mirror and we see the mistakes we made. We take ourselves to task. We see our bad behavior. We see our negative traits. We see fault in ourselves. Insecurity, fear, anger, jealousy, compulsions, addictions, all the negativity. As we're saying today, when it comes to that moment that you're perceiving in yourself, all whatever negativity there is, do not believe it. Pause and remember, the Creator created each and every one of us as pure and perfect beings of light. Pure and perfect beings of light. Because the Creator, being pure light, can only create in like kind. So could only create beings of light, could only create perfection. Our work is to pause. Yes, it doesn't mean we didn't make a mistake. It doesn't mean we didn't act in an ego way or a selfish or a greedy way. But that's not the real us. For us, we want to keep reminding ourselves, we are pure and perfect beings of light. We are pure and perfect beings of light. We are pure and perfect beings of light. And as the story I told you about Jonathan Langer, we want to draw out more and more, reveal more and more of that pure and perfect beingness. So, like other people will say, what you see is what you get. So if we're seeing with our physical eyes, then that's what we're going to get. We're going to get the impact of the jealousy, the insecurity, the fear, the anger, etc. When we see with the eyes of the Creator, when we see with the eyes of our heart, when we see with love, kindness, and compassion, knowing everybody is a pure and perfect being of light, then we'll be able to draw that out of ourselves, and we'll be able to draw that out of other people. And as you and I and all of us who can hear this message begin to see and draw out our own pure and perfect beingness, to look around in the people in our own environment and see through the negativity and draw out more and more of that light, and the light's shining into the cosmos and starting to take away the darkness and more of the darkness, then, as the Zohar says, you and I together, and as we gather more and more people doing the same thing, love your neighbors yourself, seeing the light in them, knowing that they're pure and perfect beings of light, just as when I look at myself in the mirror, I can see the pure and perfect being of light. As more and more of us are revealing light, awakening light, drawing light out of other people, then we'll be able to draw all the light out of all the darkness in the world, because there is no darkness. The world is not dark. It is filled with light, but some aspect of that is being covered up. Our job is to take away the covers. And as more of us unite and we take away more and more of those covers, we will reveal the light of heaven on earth that is existent here, just we don't perceive it. Remember the goggles. Heaven on earth exists. The more light we shine into the world, the more of those covers we take away, the more we reveal heaven on earth. And that's how you and I can live in the Garden of Eden that exists on this earth forever. God bless. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate your offering me or giving me the chance to share with you. And those of you who put watch parties, I thank you for sharing with others. Whoever joined your watch party, they're the right people at the right time. The same thing, in a little bit, the video will stay on the Facebook page. Again, share it. Just go to the share button on your page underneath the video and just put public. Let it go out to people. If you didn't start the watch party, or even if you did, just share it again. Let everybody have access to it. Look what's going on in the world. The darkness looks like it's getting more intense. What we learned today is how to see the light, and our job is to reveal the light. So imagine the more people who come to hear about this and understand about this technology called Kabbalah and start to put it to use. One, even if it's just the first step. Imagine somebody who you spread this video to, who hears this message and says, there's light inside me? The light really is infinite? And then they stop and think, if they believe in a creator, in a God, and they understand God is infinite, an infinite goodness, then they will come even in a logical way to understand, well, then I must be created in that goodness. And they'll be more open to realize they are pure and perfect beings of light and start to make the effort to reveal, take the covers off, the cover of their fear, start removing it, the cover of their ego, start removing it, this cover of jealousy and greed and insecurity, start removing it, and let the true nature shine out there. That's how we've grown. When I started in 1987, 3 small centers, a couple hundred students, a dozen teachers, to centers all over the world. Look who's watching now. Study groups all over the world, people of all nationalities, backgrounds, etc. As I shared with you in the beginning, Rav Ashlag says every human being needs to have access to this wisdom, to wake up and understand and do the actions of love your neighbors yourself. So the more we just put it out there, the more people will come to it, the faster we will all, in unity, remove the darkness and allow this peace, this harmony, this joy to show up. We cannot do it without you. And this is why we always take this time. We are a charitable organization. And I want to thank those of you who are making the effort to share with us, who are making your donations. And here, okay. There it is. I want to thank you for your support. We've given away a few thousand Zohars because many of you have supported the Zohar project. We are raising money to be able to give away 16,000 Zohars. People are writing in all the time. They're taking advantage of that, right? We would like to spread it more and more to maintain this program, to maintain the projects of the center, to be able to reach out to more people. We cannot do it without your support. So think about it. Each one of you, you are the cause for other people to have a Zohar. You are a cause for people to learn this wisdom, and therefore you are the cause for people to transform their life. Take a moment to feel good about that. Every donation you make, every contribution to Spiritual Sunday, to the Kabbalah Center, is helping people out there. Like we said, the thief to realize he's better off giving the dollar than stealing the dollar. The violent person, better off being kind and forgiving for the blessings that are going to come back to them rather than the act of violence or destruction. This is what you are creating in the world. This is what you can do more and more of. So we said, the heart has eyes, according to the Zohar. Let's open the eyes of our heart to see the reality, one, that we're all in it together. We are all one soul. What they do affects me. What I do affects them. Let's make our actions more powerful of the light than other people under the influence of the opponent are doing in a negative way, so that we'll bring them to realize their pure and perfect beingness. So let's just take a moment, close your eyes. I put on the chat, and I will put again on the page the link for those who would like to contribute to support this mission. But meanwhile, let's just close our eyes and give gratitude. Holding the consciousness of gratitude and appreciation for all that the Creator has put in our soul, for our talents and abilities, for our very life force, our life existence. Appreciate the fact we've come to this wisdom to be able to have greater control over our destiny by taking greater control over our consciousness, and therefore our actions, and therefore what the universe brings back to us, to be of greater love and peace, prosperity, health, protection, because that's what we're putting out in the cosmos. Opening our hearts, knowing that every gift that you give through the center is going out to thousands of people, millions of people, impacting every one of the 7.5 billion people on the planet with a spiritual awakening to their unity with all of us, to the true light in their soul, to motivate and inspire them to reveal that pure light being that's in them. Peace on earth, as the Kabbalists write, when all people will have this wisdom and be connected to the light of the Creator. Together we say, Amen. So I thank you again for joining us, for letting me share this wisdom with you, what I've been learning from my teachers who learned from their teachers and their teachers. And again, if you have a story, I would love to hear it, be able to share it with others. If you have any questions, you can always Facebook me. I'm happy to make an effort to get back as many as I can. And I wish you a marvelous Spiritual Sunday. For some of you, it's already Monday. So a great Spiritual Monday. And lots of light, love, and blessings to you all. Have an amazing day, an amazing week.